Good evening. Welcome to the April 10th, 2024 Poolesville Planning Commission meeting. We have our full board here, including Mr. Kevin Maroney. Welcome.
Thank you.
First meeting.
Thank you.
On the agenda tonight, we will have citizens' comments on any agenda items, go through any announcements, and then approve the minutes. And new business today is going to be the backyard chicken ordinance. I don't know how that's really new business, but it is.
It's new business because these are new potential changes.
Yep. And then we have the comprehensive plan comments to go over. So, any comments on agenda items from the citizens? Somebody's signing up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Do you,
Want to comment?
For chickens.
Chickens.
do you want them to go now or?
Minutes? Because I'd rather have them before we start talking. I'd rather hear the comments.
Okay, so do you want us to do the minutes first and then take the
We can do that.
comments?
We can
Okay.
do that. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes of the March 13th meeting?
I make a motion we approve the minutes of the March 13th meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. One abstention.
One abstention.
Two.
Because you weren't here.
I wasn't
Oh,
here.
two abstentions.
I wasn't here, so I
Oh,
can't.
two abstentions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Now, anybody signed up for chickens?
yeah. Mhm.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Rebecca McKeela, 17029 Tom Fox Avenue. I only printed out 4, it seems.
Thank you very much.
You can make copies, it's okay.
Okay, sure. It's great to be back here at the Planning Commission meeting where
Yes,
this,
I have an extra. I've seen it before, I think.
yes, you
so,
have.
Yeah.
It's everything you've seen, Martin. Should I pull this down?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're good.
all right. It's great to be back here where you guys were very instrumental in helping to bring the backyard chicken ordinance to the commissioners and presenting it in a way that, presenting clear evidence to the commissioners that the backyard chickens would benefit the town of Poolesville. So thank you guys. In a town that embraces its presence in the ag reserve and strives towards building sustainability and community, backyard chickens are indeed an excellent fit. Since bringing home chickens last spring, our family has eliminated food waste, as all scraps now, as my kids like to say, get turned into eggs. And dozens of Poolesville friends and families have grown in their knowledge of hen keeping by visiting our coop. I welcome all of you to come and visit our backyard if you would like to see what responsible hen keeping looks like here in Poolesville. Despite the benefits of having backyard chickens, we do have concerns that the ordinance as it is currently written is too restrictive and not as inclusive of all families as was originally intended. As presented to the town commissioner's staff in prior emails, documents, and previous public testimony at the commissioners' meeting on March 4th, there are many residents that seek important changes to the current ordinance. Specifically, we seek adjustments to the hen limit, minimum coop size, minimum setback from a property line, and minimum setback from adjacent dwellings. So I believe that Niles gave you guys emails that have been sent since that last commissioners meeting. If you haven't had a chance to look through those, I'd encourage you to do that. I've also given you a copy of what I sent to the town commissioners a month ago. To help guide your decision-making, let me share one example. Baltimore's 2019 Sustainability Plan includes backyard chickens as part of their urban agriculture plan. The city of Baltimore has chicken keeping regulations that include a maximum of 10 hens for residents living on lots 1/5 acre or larger, a 2 square foot per hen requirement in the coop, no minimum property setback line, and a 15-foot adjacent dwelling setback. That's the city of Baltimore. Others here this evening, and to be honest, there were many people planning to come, but between illnesses and work travel and other unexpected things, they aren't here, but again, you have emails from them. Many are speaking in regards to the current ordinance requirements on coop size and setback lines, but let me first speak briefly regarding the hen limit. When this limit was set by the commissioners last year, it was stated to be a starting place. Hen keeping has gone well in the town, and we seek to amend the ordinance to allow more than 6 hens as currently permitted. This change is motivated by two primary concerns. First, for larger families, 6 hens simply do not produce sufficient eggs to support such families, requiring these families to unnecessarily purchase eggs from the grocery store, when in fact their coops and runs could safely support additional hens with no impact to neighbors. Second, it is not safe to add fewer than 3 to 4 birds at a time to the flock, because the older hens bully and sometimes kill the younger hens. They do the same when an older, unfamiliar hen is added to the flock. With a 6-hen limit, it's challenging to replace birds when members succumb to illness or old age. We propose modification to the ordinance to allow up to 12 hens so flocks can more easily fluctuate in number as chickens age. In my letter to the town commissioners in March, which you have, I gave a potential tiered hen limit. However, in my copy to you this evening, I have grayed this out. Town staff was supportive of an increased hen limit and recommended to commissioners on March 18th to allow additional hens on greater than 1 acre. This change would not resolve this issue, as very few residents in town have over 1 acre of land. Our group would prefer no property size limits on the number of hens, and this would also be simpler for the town to manage. However, if the Planning Commission deems it necessary for tiering the number of chickens based on amount of land, we think the best compromise is to use the original ordinance dwelling setback of 100 feet for allowing more hens, rather than simply property acreage alone. This would more appropriately address potential concern for hens kept too close to a neighbor's home. Regardless, an increased number of hens would have minimal to no impact on neighbors. As you consider our recommendations, let me pause and remind you that our hens are confined to their coops and run structure, so they are not free-ranging around the yard. One of my neighbors sat in front of the commissioners last month and reported no pests, extra predators, or smell from our coop. In terms of concern for noise, my own neighbors have commented that they very rarely hear any noise from my hens, and that the wild birds living in the trees of our backyard are significantly louder. In contrast, there is no restriction to the number of other pets in Poolesville, and our neighbors' dogs are permitted to come up to my property line and frequently startle my young children with their loud bark and the concern of them jumping the fence again. We ask you to increase the maximum hen limit and trust us to make decisions about our flocks, specifically when and how many hens to add. That will allow us to keep our pets healthy and happy, all while following the town's ordinance. I also sent, this should be in an email.
Yep, and they
Got
got
this
it,
also.
yep. Mhm.
Just pointing out that the manufacturer recommendations for how many hens should be in a coop is significantly different than what our ordinance says should be in each coop. So thank you guys very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
We have it, but if you'd like to speak, you can just come and say your name for the record and address.
Hi, my name is Sarah Newens. Do you need my address?
Yes, please.
Address is 17105 Tom Fox Avenue. I cannot find my prepared statement, but similar to the previous meeting, I live on over an acre, almost 1.1 of an acre, and when I tried to figure out where we could place a coop, I think it was like down to maybe 5% of my property, just given all the different limitations based on the current ordinance. So I would support the proposed changes set forth before you. I'm also in agreement to the recommendation heard by Rebecca McKeela regarding the hen limits, and I think that these would be more in line with one, just the culture of our area being in an agricultural region, and two, given that the city of Baltimore would allow up to 10, it seems like it would be reasonable for our area to increase from the current level of 6, I think, at least up to 10. So I just want to echo, I'm also in agreement with everything that Rebecca McKeela has said, so.
Thank you very much.
My name is Christina Carr. I'm at 17106 Spates Hill Road. You have my email that I sent, but I just wanted to reiterate that. I live in I think it's a 3rd acre lot, and I currently cannot fit a coop within a 100-foot setback. I could at 50. And my yard's plenty big. It would not be disruptive to my neighbors. And I also support the other initiatives with the hen limit and everything she eloquently said that I don't have written down. So that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. New business. Backyard chicken ordinance discussion and recommendation.
Certainly. So first, as you've already heard the testimony before, at the March 4th Commissioners meeting, the Commissioners heard testimony from several residents, many of the same residents here, regarding changes to the ordinance. At the March 18th Commissioners meeting, staff provided their input on proposed changes. There's a memo from Wade that is in your packet for that meeting, and we can go over those in detail. Subsequent to the meeting, we had several more resident comments, which you received, and a couple further statements. One thing to clarify, this was just a discussion a little bit. What is in the ordinance now says 4 square feet per chicken for the coop and such. That was based on research we found of what was optimal for chickens, based on best practices. I know there's some discussion about making it 2 foot or the manufacturer's deadlines. That was sort of or manufacturer specifications, but this was based on our research of looking at what was optimal. There was one a resident who made a comment to me that due to our climate, that it's warmer here than some, that maybe that 4 foot square foot requirement would not be as necessary for something like a 2 foot. So that was the feedback that I received. I gave a couple of references to you guys about where we got that number from. As for, Wade, do you want me to go through it, or would you like to, for your memo?
Go for it. Yeah, keep going. You're good.
Right, perfect. So, so these are the staff recommendations. There's more, as we commented to the commissioners, but just making a statement to you. When we've had virtually no complaints about the actual conditions of the permit, of the coops, or the noise or anything like that. As we mentioned, our main concerns have been about the placement of coops relative to the ordinance itself. So that's part of the background to this. So here's staff's recommendations. Staff recognizes the limitations of the 100-foot setback and recommend the consideration of reduction to 50 feet. This is in keeping with the overall intent to protect the rights of adjacent property owners and the enjoyment of the property. Staff recommends maintaining the 15 feet from property lines as currently allowed. As Wade mentioned at the commissioners meeting, there are instances where people don't maintain their coops as well as others, sometimes smells and things like that. So having that 15-foot setback sort of allows for those conditions to be mitigated by that distance. And then the last one was increasing the number of chickens has the potential of creating a nuisance and is not keeping with many of the surrounding municipalities. Staff recommends that if any changes to the number of chickens is considered, that be limited to no more than 10 chickens for the property, at least 1 acre of land, which was referenced. And so then the last is just a few area municipalities. Rockville, you may have up to 5 female chickens for personal use at a single family home. City of Gaithersburg allows residents to keep up to 6 backyard hens. The City of Annapolis allows residents to have up to 5 per property, and the City of Frederick allows up to 6 on residential property. So that concludes sort of the staff summary of our recommendations and discussion.
You guys, I was gonna, we skipped the announcements portion, but we did have this discussion at a previous commissioner meeting, and Wade and Niles reported back that there were very few problems, that everything was going well, which is why I think staff recommends like loosening the rules a little bit. And we were originally just gonna vote on it because we figured, like, you know, at this point, like, why go back? But Jay thought we should discuss it here and then send it back. So that, and then the other quick deviating for 1 second, I wanted to let you know that the cannabis ordinance was approved.
As we seen it the last time?
Yes, and we,
It's written except for one change about a library, like it's got to be a certain distance from a library.
we added that to the list of 500 foot.
But nothing was removed.
Correct.
But otherwise, it was completely the same, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are some of my announcements, but yeah, so the chicken thing was, it sounded like it was going pretty well. Sorry. Yeah, that's okay, no worries, not a big deal. It's the one time I actually have something to say. While I'm talking, I always give a lot of weight to staff recommendations. I have no problem with anything here. This was discussed among the commissioners, and it seemed, the impression I got, we didn't vote on this, but the impression I got is that the commissioners were all on board with this. My only question is, I like everything that's written here, but like, do we increase the 6 to like 8 maybe, or do we keep it at 6, for under an acre? But I'm fine with the way everything's written also.
I will say, I like the staff recommendations. When it originally came before us, I was kind of shocked that they were even starting with a 100-foot setback. I was like, that no one can have chickens. So I'm glad to see that this is reduced. I think that this is a more reasonable setback, but as far as the other things, I think I'm in agreement with staff recommendations on this.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that we are introducing that 1 acre distinction, I was thinking about the 100-foot setback, and, based on testimony, it sounds like that is still an issue, even though you might think there's space there. So it sounds like what the staff's recommended is a good way to go.
The only one that I'm kind of interested in maybe debating a little bit more is the 4 versus 2 foot sizing. Because unless I'm wrong, check me if I'm wrong, that's really not going to have anything to do with impacts on the neighbors. That's totally about quality of life for the bird, right?
Correct. That was the basis of why it was put in there.
Yeah, I think that's not really our jurisdiction as much as the other ones are. So I'd rather see that one drop down to 2, but I won't go with the staff recommendations on the other items.
I think I'd be okay. I mean, do you have any reason to believe 2 is like not a good way to go?
I mean, I think this was just, as I said, it was just based on the research of what we thought was best practice. I think that if we were to reduce it or do something like that, I don't think that would make that much of a difference. I don't know. What would you say, Wade?
I agree with you, which is research. Chickens and close to what you're talking about right now. So.
Yep.
Can you paraphrase that?
Wade, you cut in and out there a little bit. So do you want to say that again?
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that at all. Research.
All right. Yeah, he was saying like that he agreed with me basically.
Yeah.
He agrees with you
That it wouldn't make that much. It's based on our research and that it wouldn't be that much of a difference for us on our end.
I mean, I will point out that this still requires a run of 10 square foot per chicken. So we're only really talking about chickens at night, right?
Yeah.
Am I incorrect to say that this is only 2 square foot per chicken when they're in the coop locked up for the night? So it's not like they are not having plenty of room during most of the time. So I think as far as that's concerned, I have no issue with changing that.
Yeah, good point, Chuck. I'm okay with 2.
That was my only main comment.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that it's 10 for an acre of land. I think, given the surrounding properties, the surrounding jurisdictions, we're being consistent with what they're doing, sticking with the 6.
You okay with the 2 square feet?
What would that equate to in numbers?
You mean, so for example, if you had 6 chickens, there'd be a 12 square foot Coop.
Got it, okay.
As opposed to 24, yeah.
Right, yeah, as opposed to 24, yeah.
More manageable size.
That helps free up property too, right? I mean, yeah.
Excuse me.
So if you, if, you okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Should I come up or?
Just go ahead and shout it out.
I live on 0.86 acres, and my coop is between 220 feet and 145 feet from any adjacent dwellings, including our own. And my coop is, the run is 120 square feet. It's huge. It's big enough. It's big. And it's very far from neighbors. And I'm under an acre. Somebody with an acre, which are not many, they could be 50 feet from an adjacent dwelling. So I guess 1 acre maybe feels like an arbitrary number to me. I guess, and this was my point of maybe consider the distance from adjacent neighbors rather than 1 acre. Property size.
How do you guys feel about that?
Can I ask, if, for staff purposes, is that administratively hard to enforce, rule on?
Well, so I think based on what Rebecca was saying, is it's simply just a matter of if we had more chickens based on how far they are away from other properties. If we're already measuring the distance, I'm not sure that is as much a concern on bigger lots. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where the distance becomes an issue. It's on smaller lots because you have to, again, like the resident said, you have to sort of triangulate exactly where it is.
Right.
Whereas on bigger lots, that's less of an issue because they can clearly meet the requirement. Then it's a question of where, of how many chickens they could have at that point. Right. That would be the way that I'd say it. Does that make sense?
It does, but really, everything we have, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, everything we have is tied to lot sizes for zoning issues, and this is a zoning, so it's more clean just to keep it in acres and the size of the lots itself. When we go into measuring setbacks and different thing all the time, it's actually became kind of a hassle, as Niles has found out with a couple different properties.
Yeah.
What they submit, and we have to go out and check them all. It becomes a headache. So if we just go with the lot size, it's much cleaner and easier for us for permitting.
And I know at the commission meeting when we discussed this at length, and Wade, step in and correct me here if I'm wrong. I don't want to speak out of turn, but Wade seemed pretty adamant that 6 was a good number, that he didn't seem to recommend increasing it on the smaller lots. Is that right, Wade?
Absolutely. And, and most people, and actually everybody that's raising chickens right now is doing an excellent job. Really what we're have to have our guard up for, the guardrails themselves, are for the 1% of the persons that are not going to do well with chickens, or maybe not clean them as much. And we have to protect the rights of the surrounding property owners. So that's kind of where that angle is coming from.
All right, if you're, I can make a motion if everyone's just done with other discussion. Okay. Excuse me. I move that we recommend to the commissioners the modification of the existing chicken ordinance as follows. The 100-foot setback requirement be dropped to 50-foot setback, and that the maximum number of chickens be allowed to be 10 or at least 1 acre of land.
Chuck, do you
What
want to
about the-
include the 2 square foot?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the, sorry, no, I missed one. And that we reduce the current 4 square foot requirement per chicken to 2 square feet. Sorry for that.
Just to be clear, as written, except for the 2 square feet.
Yes,
Cool.
4 square feet to 2 square feet, 100 feet to 10 feet setback wise, and increase the limit to 10 for an acre land.
I second Chuck's motion.
100 to 50 foot,
What did I say?
10. I got you.
Thank you. Had a rough afternoon. My
good?
head is partially somewhere else.
We got what we need, right?
Yeah, we have what we need. Yeah, Martin seconded it.
We have a
fumbled
second.
one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now back to old business.
There's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
Usually write them down. I should have done that.
Comprehensive plan, review and possible approval.
All right.
This is really exciting stuff, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
All right. So, just going over a couple of general things, then we can get into specific. At the March 13th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission heard verbal testimony on the comprehensive plan and some written testimonies. Since then, the staff has received further written testimony included in your agenda packet. Furthermore, the state has provided commentary on the plan, which is also attached. For the April 10th meeting, staff asked the Planning Commission to provide their feedback on the testimony they received and if we make any final changes at this meeting. If there are no major changes, the Planning Commission can vote to approve the text of the plan at the April 10th meeting, and we can move on the other administrative changes to the maps, more photos, the cover, and things like that, an email before final approval at the May 15th meeting. So I don't know if you want to start any specific place with the feedback or how we want to follow up next.
I'm definitely interested in walking through the MDP,
Yeah, can we walk
because
through that?
there was some
Just page by
very
page?
interesting things in there.
Certainly. So the MDE's comments begin on packet page 41. And yeah, so the first page is their cover letter, and then the overall summary starts on packet page 42.
You want to walk through all the other departments as well?
Sure, we can do that. Wherever you want to start is more what we can discuss.
Page 42, and then onward.
Ritu Adelante.
Let's do it. Anything on page 1? Otherwise, we can start at page 2.
So the whole, page 2, the whole 12 vision
Yes.
topic. This might even be we don't have J. So is there anything that we have to do? I'll try this way. My reading of page 43 and page 44 and the first, is basically that they're nice comments, but there was nothing here that we really needed to do as they were.
Right. So most of this, so some of the comments are, here's the stuff that we as a department are required to look at.
Right.
Here's what it looks like you have in the plan. Here's what you did. And if some of it is language changes, like little things, but other things are like, oh, it's there. Like, for example, the quality of life and sustainability. The draft plan contains many references to the town's commitment to stewardship of the land, water, and air. The draft plan affirms the community's values to preserve and protect natural resources of the community, including goals associated with protection and conservation of natural resources. That is just saying that we did that.
Okay.
So a good portion of this stuff is just saying, we did it, and they are acknowledging that. In terms of overall what we need to do or whatever, these are there advisory comments. There are some things that we might want to look at specifically regarding what state law has to say, but for the most part, it's just those type of comments.
So I think they're all, my take is everything up to page 46, where we get into halfway down. Everything up to there is just kind of informational. I don't think there's any, it didn't look to me like there was anything that we needed to change based on those. However, what I find interesting really was on page 46, and there was on one or two other pages too, where they very specifically basically come out and say, I don't know how you guys are figuring out that you are limited to 6,500 people and have a wastewater and sewage problem. You're nuts. How do they come up with that? Because that's kind of been the bedrock of
Right.
what we've been talking about for over a decade, maybe 2 decades here.
So Wade and I discussed this as well. So part of it is simple. Part of it for them is simple math. They're just looking at the amount of gallons available in our capacity and the amount of houses that could produce. That is what they are looking at. There's no discussion in this about maintaining the infrastructure. So, for example, PFAS or drought or any of the other things that we take in consideration of what they do. For example, they talk about the wastewater limit without reference to the fact that there's a buffer in there for I&I work. That's a good example. So they are just looking at the math. There's this much capacity, therefore you could produce more houses. They're not looking at anything else. And this draft these comments admit that they did not have MDE comments yet.
Saw that.
So that it's lacking that part. So this is just planning's view, basically based on that math. This is how I interpret it. I don't know if you want to say something, Wade.
No, what did I say? Sylvia saw this, this is a very superficial review.
Yep.
And it does not take into account any of the hydrologic studies we've had and all the professional input that we've had. So I was actually taken back. It was really strange when I read this, part of those things.
So specifically, one thing I want to check something. So when they say they just do their math on capacity,
Yeah.
I mean, the plant is, our main constraint still, let's leave PFAS aside for a second.
Yes.
Is sewage at the plant. And that always, that fact, leaving the PFAS topic aside for a second, that hasn't really changed, correct?
Water's more critical now than the sewage is, just barely. And that's changed over the last 2 years probably.
Yeah, pretty quickly. But we are still, with the output capacity of the current plant, not the just, yeah, with the output capacity of the current plant, how much could we generally grow above and beyond what we've historically said we could? Any?
Well, you're limited by your permit itself, and your permit is based on the master plan population output. So it's all tied together. I mean, if you say 6,500 and they give you an extra 100,000 gallons for I&I for the permit, and it's based at 750,000 gallons per day, you're there. There's nothing else you can do.
And
what maybe if this helps, what they may be doing is just taking the calculation of homes and dividing it into the 750, and that's where they get. There's no offness.
And they also, did they use R numbers for size in gallons? Because I know R's tend to be more.
In fact, it's on.
They referenced it at 300.
I saw that.
Yeah.
275 gallons per townhouse, 325 for a single family, and they put it at 300.
Yeah, they calculated it at that in-between number, basically arguing that there'd be a mix of both.
Right. They
But
also recommended 48 units per acre on next to the comments. 48 units.
4D8, not 48.
48.
Yeah.
48 per acre. Apartments and condos.
right.
Did you read that?
Well, yeah, I saw that one. They were very big on apartment and condo, which is
Right here, maybe?
Right here. That was the recommendation, actually.
okay.
And it also doesn't take into account the industrial, commercial use of water.
Right. So and they say that this is only residential units. So, for example, things like the community center, other priorities that we as a town have are not reflected in those type of projections.
So I just want to make sure, like I said, I just want to make sure that I understood where they were coming from. Because when I
Yes.
read that, I think my reaction was probably a little bit different than Wade's, and I probably couldn't say it here in this room. It was very frustrating. What are we, I mean, these are advisory only, so if we send back with the same, no change to our water, sewer, housing stuff, how are they going to react to that? Any feel for that?
No reaction.
Yeah.
There'll be no reaction. These are observations and not even suggestions to make changes. Very few of those were in there. Most of them are just observations.
Yep.
Yeah, I almost felt like somebody was writing a document to justify their job a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And I've been in that world on that side of the fence before. I understand that. So I get sometimes it's burned, but okay.
Well, we do cover all the key components that we were
Yes.
discussing. We have everything covered, the housing stuff. I mean, we have all those elements, and all the elements are written and cover what needs to be covered from a legal standpoint.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like under chapter 7, they've highlighted a few things that are not consistent in the appendix. I'm sure that's just housekeeping.
Yes, we can address all of that.
Definitions thing?
Yeah, the definitions thing.
Yep. Yeah, that's not a problem. That's what I meant by administrative kind of changes. There's little things like that.
Sorry, I thought it was mute. What about, sticking with chapter 7,
Yeah.
stuff on page 48, comments about the Senate Bill 687, 2021.
Yes.
That's getting in such down to the weeds, I almost wonder whether that's if we're fine on that or that's got to be a J thing. When they start throwing around that level of calling out specific laws and passages, I start to wonder.
So with the affirmatively furthering fair housing stuff, I did some look into that and what it says. And most of it, we don't. So when it talks about, like, for example, this is on page 49, an analysis of census information can provide the town with insight. The draft plan could be revisited to identify if there are patterns of segregation or integration, the RECAPs, right? There's a state database that states where those areas that have that specific recaps, however you want to say that acronym, we do not fall into that category.
Okay.
Like, as already defined in under what the state and county have in their database. So some of these comments are like, well, we could look at it, but our answer would be we don't fit into that category.
Does that language need to be included?
If, that's sort of a determination thing. What were you going to say, Wade?
No, we had talked about a couple of
Yeah.
different, because we had taken out a bunch of the stuff that really didn't match up, if you recall.
Yeah.
And I think this was one of the ones that we actually discussed. And there's still other references they have that maybe we can include as, part of the appendices or something.
Yep.
It started throwing so many helpful references that it's like, okay, let's just point them to the state website.
Yeah.
Well, that's what exactly what we talked about in the previous meetings.
Yep. And so that's where we could add that to the appendices and do it that way and say, we looked at this and this is what we found. So.
Yeah, something like that's a little tempting to put in very small, just to kind of stop this whole topic from running on with these guys. Because I can see this, it just from the wording here, and this comes up several places. This particular vibe, if you will, feels like it flows throughout a lot of their comments. So yeah, if there's a way we could just put a little something in to say that we've looked at this and it doesn't apply. I'm paraphrasing dramatically. I think that's you're saying that could be very helpful.
Yeah.
So I would take, if we can lump that into the administrative things, if everyone agrees, I think that would help a lot with this. They go on multiple pages about this topic.
Yeah.
It's good with me.
Are we good to go and talk about transportation? All right, so, I don't know what page it is. It's 9 on mine.
On the general one, it's,
There it is, page 50. So I'm curious, I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs down. I know that they said that specific issues and strategies are not reflected in the transportation goals and objectives. Do we need to update those goals and objectives to spell out?
we talk about a lot of the specific things in the text of the chapter itself. So for example, that section is referring to the issues related to state roads, for example. All of those are spelled out directly in the chapter.
That's what I thought.
So we say generally in the goals and objectives, we work with the state, and then we say specifically, here are the intersections. And Wade and I, the last time we looked at this chapter, specifically added language on a couple of the intersections as well. So that could go either way, but that's how we address that.
I had a question also, that they specifically said that they would like us to clarify whether the town would support on-road bike lanes. I don't think we discussed that at all, but is that part of the Fisher plan?
Yeah, it's on the streetscape plan, so, yeah,
So,
Yep.
okay,
yeah. So it's in there, they're just saying to say it in the text.
to spell it out.
right.
Just
Yeah, so that's again an example of a suggestion rather than something that
So
we
it's a-
haven't
It's a
reflected.
single bike lane though, right? It's not 2 lanes.
I believe it's just one, yeah.
I don't think there's room,
This one,
Yeah.
One.
room out there for,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they also recommend, bike lanes to the MARC train.
Yeah.
Which would be nice on our rural roads, but also they're rural roads.
Yeah.
And way out of our jurisdiction.
again, it's doesn't, yeah, it's do not match what we have.
And then I had a question, in that it says that some of our trails, our hiking trails, or just town trails, extend beyond the town's limit and connect to county's planned trail system. Is that true? I've no idea of any of that.
Not on our end. It might be, that's where I didn't have a chance to. I was trying to look at all of the links today,
Right.
but I didn't get a chance to look at the MDOT SHA context-driven maps. They might try to connect them somewhere, but I don't know where
'Cause
they would.
The only way I can think of is that some of our sidewalks are designated trails.
Right.
And if they were to extend a sidewalk, it didn't become a trail.
Right.
But that'd be the only way.
But
From
it's
where?
this
Yeah, it's
existing
not-
trail
it's not-
system. Where is
Yeah.
Yeah.
the county's existing trail system? that
Right.
Hooks into town?
Right, there is none.
Yeah,
There is none
okay.
as far as, yeah, we're,
No, there is none.
I was confused as to whether I completely missed that.
Unless Frank Jameson gave him some land to build a trail, I don't know.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
In-kind contribution again.
Right.
All right, anyone else have anything in transportation or?
on transportation. I noticed some of the same things you did.
I had a question actually about, I don't know that we want to address it in here, but on chapter 12, they recommend for sustainability, including an EV charging, ready parking space for all new single-family housing units as part of our commitment to sustainability. Thoughts?
well, and this is more of a, I would think, a zoning question for when we look at the code than it is a plan thing, although you could do it either way, but that's my first thought. I don't know.
I think, well, John, you can answer this too. I think it more of it plays into, you may zoning be able to do it, but then really the building and the housing team from Montgomery County are the ones that have to require outlets and different things to make it actual an EV parking spot.
Yeah, that's correct. You're gonna have to,
And the,
utility, it's gonna be a utility issue more than anything else.
yeah.
I mean, I imagine it could be as simple as providing a 220 plug inside, or whatever the same as your dryer is inside the garage,
Right.
right?
Right. In Montgomery County, when they do the building code, that may be coming forth, so.
I would imagine it would, because they've already passed, no more gas stoves.
Yeah.
Because, the townhouse said, yeah, this is all the electric in there. So, yeah, it probably will be coming down the pipe, but it's out of our jurisdiction is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Water resource section is back to the whole capacity topic again, ad nauseam. I almost got the impression, I forget if it was on this section or in one of the other sections related to this, where they were trying to gently prod us to consider annexing land into town to be able to build more high-density housing units. I got that feeling from a couple of spots.
Yeah.
And that is the state's push. I mean, that's
Where they're trying to do things more generally, yeah. Which, part of this is it's a one size fits all. They have to provide comments to all of the different plans, so they try to judge them the same even when they're not.
Did you see that we got a commendation? We're committed.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. For thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
there's several of those things.
yeah,
That's outside the box was funny.
yeah.
I'm not sure that it needs addressing in the comprehensive plan, but I do want to bring up that under land use element number 7, their planning analysis, they do make a good point that our zoning is residential multifamily, which is not consistent with the definition of, so townhouses are by definition single-family homes. And so if we want to have some sort of distinction for townhouses versus, detached single-family homes, that's one thing. But multifamily homes are not, they're a much higher density than a townhouse. And so that is something that we should look at fixing within our code just in general.
Yeah, and we can look at it like as making it like the zone for attached versus detached.
Yes.
And make that the difference.
Attached versus detached is a good
Yeah.
way to go with that. But yes, I wanted to point out that while that doesn't need addressing here, it probably needs addressing by us in the near future.
We are planning on
Yeah,
cracking that
that's-
open, so that's a
that's
great one.
already coming in.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yep. Do we specifically call out, I guess we do have our current zones listed by
Yes,
name, and we
they-
can't really not have them in the master plan.
Right,
Yeah.
they're in there, and then there's the map, the zoning map also has them in there.
Okay.
Any other comments on this page? I'll just say, I thought that we did a good job talking about the schools.
I thought so too, I was actually kind of surprised about the.
So I was
capacity.
surprised by the comment that they thought that we needed to
So-
discuss.
I thought about that more, and I have a thought. What they are talking about, I think, is trying to match the proposed development and their impact on schools. So for every new house, how many kids could there be? Therefore, how would that affect schools? Because that's like in Gaithersburg, that's a big issue when talking about overcrowding. But because our situation, again, being unique, has situations where we have a lot of kids not from the area that go to the high school, for example. So those type of projections don't necessarily match up. So that's one thing to speak to there.
Okay.
We do have the capacity, the capacity and the current number of students called out in the plan.
Yes, and I also included in it, because I had to rewrite this part, what the future capacity would be and where the schools project the capacity to be.
Right.
So that's where we address the capacity. We just don't say, we're gonna have X number of new houses, this is this many students, and this could affect the capacity.
Can you tell me anything about this LPPRP that they bring up?
Yeah, I think that has to do more with the county parks themselves, if I recall it. John might have a reference there because I know Clark Azar sometimes does stuff with the county parks, so.
Yeah, repeat that. I'm sorry, I was typing something at the present time.
I apologize. Yeah,
That's okay. What was that? What was it?
we're talking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so, under Parks and Recreation, they bring up working with Montgomery County Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan, LPPRP. I have not heard that before, and I just wondered, could you speak to it and why that they might have made this comment?
Well, it's probably because I suspect that in the future, some of Montgomery County parks may intersect with the town limits and also into the town, possibly, such as on the backside of the golf course where the Willard property is right now, between Willard and also, if at some point it comes to be, and then also down towards the middle school pond, that stream valley down that way may eventually end up in that realm of a Montgomery County park. So I suspect there may be some intersecting taking place at some point.
Give them that one. That would be easy enough. Just put in a brief, like literally one sentence, or indicating that we will we'd be happy to coordinate with Montgomery County LPPRP if and when it becomes relevant.
Yeah.
That might appease them, and it's reasonable.
I've seen it before, and I was like, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
We don't either.
Yeah, agreed.
I can snoop if anybody wants me to. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Initial growth element, their only real comment there was the same one they've been making.
Yes.
So what about this growth tiers?
Yeah.
If the town does not incorporate the growth tier map into the comprehensive plan at the time the town was scheduled to conduct its next mandated comprehensive plan, the town's growth tier map shall be considered not adopted for purposes. And if the town intends to, can you speak on this?
It says that we submitted something back in 2013, so I don't know. I couldn't find it when I was looking a little bit today, but I can look more for that growth tier map if we need to. And we could just add it as a dependency if we need to.
A road tier map is, I'm sorry.
Growth tier map.
Number
A
13.
growth.
Yeah.
And I don't recall ever adopting or providing one.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Unless we just gave them the information on our planned growth and they made one. I'm not sure.
We could follow up with Susan as well to see if they have some,
Yeah.
if they could provide what we provided back in 2013, and they might be able to provide that, and then we could add it in.
I think this is a rabbit that should be chased.
Yeah, that one could bite us.
housekeeping. That's nitpicking. And that brings us through these comments. Did anyone have anything else in the original comments before we maybe discuss, like, Department of Natural Resources comments or anyone else's?
No, that was all for me on the MDP stuff.
While it doesn't need to necessarily be part of the plan, I think that maybe Sustainable Poolesville should get a look at the Department of Housing stuff. It says, while Poolesville is eligible for a Sustainable Communities designation from the state of Maryland, it has not sought this designation and is therefore ineligible for benefits under the designation. That's probably something that could be looked into.
Yeah.
And it definitely sounds like something that the Sustainability Committee would want to be, or would be interested in.
Yep.
So I did highlight that to send on to them. As a general note, I did want to make a comment that MDOT says that we should advocate for improved ride-on services while also discontinuing some of our services
Yeah.
in the same month. Just like to point that out. Oh, and then if anyone wants to talk about the Maryland Historic Trust, I thought there were some interesting comments there that we should maybe consider. Discuss. Mostly in that they say that state records
So,
show 33 properties. So what is the difference here? What's happening here?
what I did, so I reached out to the Maryland Historical Trust, and they're going to provide us with what information they have. So the original list from the 70s included 33 properties. And I found the record that lists out each of the properties and how they were, and how they were designated back in the 70s. I don't know why or when the map of 18 property, it became a map of 18 properties, other than it might be either ones that were maintained or things like that over time. But so I'm following up with them to determine exactly what we're missing and why, and so we can get an updated map. But they were very quick to respond to me today about helping us out with that.
That's awesome. I also wondered if it wasn't relevant, since we were just talking about arts
Well-
and historic sort of district.
Yeah.
in our last meeting, that knowing where those 33 buildings are may help us to define that area better.
Very much.
Right. And a lot of them were in that area just south of Fisher, near sort of West Willard, that area that were commented on. Again, this was all from the 70s, so there are things that might be different and things like that, so.
Do you have a copy of the historic atlas from Park and Planning? That's what that was done.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
That's what it was property.
and some of those first 33 could have been, there might have been some directly outside of the corporate limits also.
yeah, that's also possible, the ones further down as well, on, once it becomes White's Ferry again. But yeah, we'll check that against that as well.
I'm also going to recommend that we follow their advice and add the language on page 97 to include, quote, the Heritage Montgomery Management Plan was adopted. Just as part of this general thing, they recommend adding some very specific language, and I don't think there's any reason not to.
Yeah, and I have actually, we have that plan. So we can just.
That was in the previous master plan
Yeah,
also.
so we can add that into this as an appendix as well.
Okay. That's all the notes that I had, other than every single time they told us that we had lots of water and we should put put 160 houses on the property next door.
And annex in more.
Yeah, and annex some more.
I can help you with that.
I bet you can.
The only other thing I've thought about a little bit, so for most of the solar-related topics, we should address those, we will when we crack open both the zoning code and some of the other things in this year.
That's, you're looking for the comments on that?
No, I read them, I was just saying, I think that those would be more so addressed in changes we make to the actual zoning code, or the zoning and planning stuff this summer, as opposed to, because adding something into the master plan, the comp plan doesn't really carry that much weight.
If we're speaking, of course, about Frank Jameson's comments, which I'm looking at here, I read his comments and I see them, and I would like to definitely go over them. But I think that, especially when he went through and underlined certain portions of the plan, that, yeah, no. When he underlined certain, they were justification for your position on developing community solar on private property. That was the position that you were taking and using that as justification. And I think that that's something that's absolutely worth revisiting, but I'm not sure that it needs to be a part of this plan.
Yeah.
I think we
it's
definitely need to, yeah, when we get, that's.
Zoning.
Yeah, because we have, that's where the whole, the solar arrays, the private solar arrays.
Yes,
Is in
and-
that zoning document?
Yes, and we had to make, I clarified in one of the updates that is in the copies that I gave to you, the use chart related to, what we currently have is the use chart related to solar. So we can revisit that as part of our discussions at that time.
Yeah. Unless it's changed since it was originally done, which I don't think it has, we were probably a little overly, we were probably fairly strict back when that was originally written, because we were all guessing. It was pretty early on in the game.
Yes.
And I think it's probably definitely time to revisit and maybe loosen that up a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the biggest thing on that would be to allow off-site use of the generated solar power.
Yeah, because right now it's roof mounted is in most of the places, I think.
And also there'll be some changes to the forest conservation law when you do your code
Yeah.
changes. It's now, forest conservation is not required for solar arrays in state law.
Yep.
That's actually helpful.
That's a big change.
Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah.
Is that recent?
So how would that move forward?
Yes.
Is that brought after the comprehensive plan, or?
So,
So we're going to, obviously, the comp plan sets guidance, and general goals and principles. Actual legislation, policy, what have you, is in town code and the zoning code. And we've said multiple times that once we get this done, I'm referring to the comp plan, our next step is then we just really crack open, I think the zoning code is probably first on the list, but it's high on the priority list, and do a very comprehensive review and rethink of what's in there, based on how to make how to allow it to support what's in our new comp plan, including a lot of things like solar being one, the redevelopment of certain areas of town, the whole redevelopment project, lots of other things. Our code is in some areas antiquated, in my opinion, in some areas just a little confusing, and it hasn't been really cracked open in detail. I think it's been at least 10 years, maybe more than 10 years. And we've talked about it multiple times here. We're committed to rolling up our sleeves and really digging into that. as soon as we get this moved on. And that's where, any of the solar is currently codified. Be honest, we've been talking about, that's fairly high on our agenda for this year, once we get this finally moved.
What is your time frame now? You gonna pass it tonight over to the commissioners?
I told you, there wouldn't be any suspense, would there?
Our only audience member might leave.
Well, it's actually a good question at that point. I think is there any commentary we haven't gone through yet?
I have nothing to add other than just a few housekeeping notes that
Yeah.
I'll send on to you.
Do we want to discuss links?
I have no issue with it one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like nobody did because nobody brought it up, but I want to be sure.
No, I mean, I read it. I mean, we combed through that division statement. You guys did for a year before I even got here, and then we combed through it again multiple times.
Let me just ask Wade and Niles, is there anything in all this feedback that you guys saw, in your opinions? I mean, those are separate from our opinions, obviously. Is there anything you saw that you thought, oh, we should maybe include that, or we should, like, that's something worth addressing, or?
No, I think that, if we did, we put it in, staff reports to you, and I'll speak to the MCA. She came, and Caroline Taylor came and testified regarding the watershed. I just want to make sure everybody understands what I had written as a response to that, understand that concept.
Yeah, your memo was good. I read that and it made sense. And it sounds like it's a fluid, not to make a bad pun, but a fluid situation that, like, once Pat Hammond has his report, that it wasn't intentional.
It's even better that it wasn't intentional.
Do we want to talk about the cover?
Yeah. It's kind of like slid in the back.
Who are these young people on the cover?
I was actually going to say, I'm not sure that we want to include these three guys in front of the solar array.
Oh my God, that one. Lord. Wow, I've lost weight. And some people have gained weight. Yeah, let's get that picture off of there.
Yeah, we talked about that as one.
I like that. I think the cover looks good. Like, well, this is the best iteration that I've seen.
Yes.
Could it be better? I guess maybe, but I think you're getting close.
Yep.
My own personal opinion. I like it a lot better than the other things we saw. Is this what Colin worked on?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
And and I know Kevin had a comment about the Sugarloaf picture. So maybe we switch that out for Poolesville one.
Canal, something
Yeah.
hiking on the canal, something a little closer to town. than-
Maybe something not in a different
Out
county.
in Frederick.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Well, but I mean, I take your point, but it is like a place that a lot of people in Poolesville go to recreate. So I don't know.
And people go there and then come here for the restaurants
Right.
afterwards, 'cause
I don't think it's the
Thomas
worst
Indian
thing to
closed.
include it, but
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, at least in my mind, partially how we define our town. Like our town is close to a lot of good recreation,
Right.
a lot of good hiking, cycling, walking, all those different things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to getting rid of it, but I'm also not opposed to keeping it.
It's also, although it's obscured, it's also our, the background photo.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
The Poolesville Golf Course is no longer, we probably shouldn't have a sign for it. It's not on the
Right. Well, it's
golf course at cross signs.
so we can change that one as well. And right next to it is a picture of crossvines.
Yeah. Which, when I looked at that, of course, I had spent a little bit of time there, but it doesn't, that picture, I would almost say get rid of the sign, but the picture doesn't really look that much like a golf course. I think that's
The picture's kind of arbitrary looking to me.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
like-
right. I know what it is.
Right, but
Right.
but if you're someone, I don't know, I mean, Poolesville Day, obvious, Poolesville High School, all these things, but.
But why not the new high school?
Yeah, I was gonna say, why
Like,
not
why
put,
not-
why
why
not put a
not-
picture of the new high school?
We can see, I mean, it's still under construction.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but there's enough of it that looks good, like
Yeah.
just that front sign.
yeah,
Just
we
that
can do
one
it.
sign.
Yeah, we can do it from that side.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
that
it's a
tomorrow.
beautiful school.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would make more sense to have.
And what about the John Pool House? I mean, that seems like that's
Right.
Sure,
something that
we have a
could
good
go
one.
in there.
What we can do is send back with changes of the individual pictures, and we can do that.
And gosh, like, while I'm riffing here, we're on this, but, maybe like Terry Pitts has some wonderful pictures of like people sitting outside at locals. I mean,
Yeah.
that's become like a pretty big thing in this town, like a pretty big, so maybe like, hey, look at the great outdoor dining scene we have.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Sure, we can,
Shot of locals and John Pool House at one.
There you go.
yeah.
Yeah, I like this design. I think we should run with it, but I do think that the pictures just need some tweaking.
Yeah, we can look at new pictures and get that taken care of. And Terry sent some, and so I'll see if what's in there. And then also like the high school and stuff like that, we can take a look at that.
Cool.
All right. So our objective today was to review the comments and
Yep.
determine whether or not to make a recommendation.
Yeah, so what we can do is you guys can say, barring the administrative changes, it's approved, and then we can follow up that way with an email that will show all of the updates that we've made. And I think that makes the most sense. How does that sound to you, Wade?
Absolutely, yes, the planning commission has to approve it, yes. Not just recommend it for approval.
Yeah,
We're approving it tonight, or
Yep.
the motion would be to approve it.
And
Yeah.
Wade, we're okay by law and all that stuff to approve it, even though there might be some housekeeping things that need to be done?
Yes, because you will see as amended, as discussed.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm good with that. I don't know how you guys feel. Yeah, Chuck, you're good?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we discussed, because like I said, some of the comments from MDP were questionable and concerning. Yes, I had to do that a couple of times this afternoon.
Had to walk
So
away a
we're all-
couple times.
Yeah, we're all on the same page, and we all wrapped our head around, so that's mostly what I want to make sure we're, so I'm good.
Yeah, and I'm obviously coming late into the process, so it looks good to me that everything made sense as far as, same observations you guys did on the, on the comments. Is there any role for the consultant that helped with this to look at anything afterwards? There's scope for them to do that?
So-
Are they out of that?
So we're gonna have a conversation with them to make some of the tweaks. Like, there's some specific tweaks to maps that need to still be made, and they are the ones who generated the maps, so they're gonna go through and do that process.
Okay.
Well, then I will recommend that the planning board approve this comprehensive plan.
That a motion?
Yeah, I'm making a motion. I'll make the motion. I never make motions. I really don't.
Go, girl.
That we approve this comprehensive plan with the housekeeping items discussed being taken care of, along with looking into those few items as discussed, and yeah.
I'll second.
Very good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Who's got the champagne?
How many years did that take?
Oh, my.
18, it felt like, but
3?
A year and a half, 2 years?
we started looking at it in 19.
COVID happened in there. That
Yeah.
would probably
So
derailed a lot of
19, so it's
stuff.
5 years.
19.
Yep.
But we got it, I think.
Yeah.
It was well worth the process. The town got a very good document.
You're the only
The
one.
only one.
Yeah.
The bad news is the clock started in 2020, so we have 5 more years, so we have to do it again.
Dead by then.
Just kidding. All right, is that I need to check the agenda, but I think that might,
Yep.
no, there's one more thing on the agenda, number 7.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
Let's do that.
Chuck, be safe.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you online in a month. You got my blog, everyone got my blog stuff.